Good morning. Happy Monday. Thank you so much for joining us on a very early Monday. Thank goodness it's a beautiful day out there. Winnipeg won last night. Who cares? I do. I see Rebecca cared. Thanks, Rebecca. Good morning. It is a pleasure to welcome you all, our valued industry partners, Genex and CNRL, members, distinguished guests, and of course, Minister Jean and his amazing team. We are a business advocacy organization founded in 2007 by a bold and visionary group of leaders who saw a better future for Alberta, not just a place to do business, but as a place to thrive. With our members employing over 150,000 Albertans across every corner of this province, our reach is vast and our impact is real. At AAG, we are relentless in our commitment to defend and promote the interests of Alberta's business community. That means speaking up when it matters most and taking action when freedom, prosperity, and the principles of our democracy are at stake. In late 2024, many raised serious concerns about Bill C-59 and its potential to chill free speech across this country. We listened. Premier Smith and ministers challenged us to act, and we did. We retained Peter Gull, one of Canada's foremost constitutional lawyers, and our trusted partner in the successful challenge to Bill C-69. We also rejoined forces with our allies and dear friends at ICBA. Mike Martins is in the room. Thank you, Mike. Who stood shoulder to shoulder with us on that previous fight. Together, we filed a legal challenge to Bill C-59, calling the courts to strike down this dangerous legislation. The statement of claim is now before the courts, and in coming weeks, we expect to receive strategic direction from Mr. Gall as we move to the next phase. This is what AAG does best. We act with integrity, courage, and unity. When our members speak, we listen. And when Alberta's future is on the line, we show up, not with empty words, but with bold action. Membership with AAG brings numerous benefits, including participation in trade missions. Our board is deciding what destination will be in this fall. Regular networking events like this, member spotlight features, access to AAG health benefits through our partner ICBA, and our loyal benefits program that provides deep discounts for a wide variety of services and products for you and your family. Today was made possible by and we would like to thank our platinum sponsors, industry partner Cam Milliken, who's here, thank you Cam, with Genex, and Mike Martins at ICBA. Diamond sponsor was Karen Trucking, gold was Specialized Recruiting Group and Newcastle West Partners, silver Anderson in Canada. We would also like to thank our team who worked tirelessly behind the scenes, the team at Chateau Lacombe, and TimeWise, our production tech team. Thank you, everyone. It is now my honor to invite our board member and friend, Krista Rabideau, to the podium to say a few words. Krista?
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today for a conversation with Minister Jean. Part of AAG, I think, one of the reasons I mainly joined in the beginning and then subsequently became a board member was merely just the engaging of the network. This is a room that's filled with entrepreneurs and like-minded people who are looking for economic growth within Alberta and how we can bring our powers together to ensure that we're continuing to foster strength within our province and allowing us to continue to foster collaboration with each other to ensure that growth. Throughout the time that I've been here, I've been able to connect with many political leaders, many entrepreneurs who run not just 1, 2, or 3 businesses. Some have dozens of businesses that they're running. I was speaking with one today who just purchased another business upon trying to retire. And I think that that's what this room is all about, is how we can work together and collaborate to continue our economic growth of the Alberta region and to foster that communication with each other, to understand what we're all going through and what we all need as part of the advocacy that Alberta Enterprise Group does for each other. So thank you very much for showing up today and supporting this, and I look forward to the conversation.
Awesome. And now Mike Martins to do the official introduction.
Thank you, Catherine. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Martins, president of ICBA Alberta. We're a new chapter of the largest construction association in Canada, and we are proud supporters of entrepreneurs and business people, mostly focusing in the construction industry, granted, but we're proud to fight together with AEG on causes of like concern, like Bill C-69 and Bill C-59. We know that Canada's economy depends on Alberta's natural resources and energy sector, and we're so pleased that we could sponsor and support Minister Brian Jean speaking here this morning. I knew Brian first as a federal member of Parliament when I was working for one of his co-members of Parliament in British Columbia. Russ Hebert was his name, and it was great bumping up to him. And then when he joined into the provincial focus, I bumped up to him again when he was leading a provincial party in the province, standing up for Albertans and for right-of-center-minded people. And it's just an honor and a pleasure to see him move up and continuing his senior leadership in the province and standing up for Albertans. A proud Fort McMurrayan, and always making sure that he is standing up for his constituents and Albertans, making sure it's a win-win for both. Minister Jean, though more formally, was sworn in as the Minister of Energy and Minerals on June 9th in 2023, and he previously served as the Minister of Jobs, Economy and Northern Development. Prior to his service as an elected official at the provincial level, Mr. Jean was a member of Parliament, as I mentioned. He was Parliamentary Secretary to 3 different ministers of Transport, Infrastructure and Communities. He's also previously dedicated 11 years in his legal practice as a partner at a large Northern Alberta law firm, and also owned several small businesses. Minister Jean holds a Bachelor of Laws as well as a Bachelor of Science and Masters in Business Administration. And Mr. Jean was first elected as member of Legislative Assembly for Fort McMurray-Conklin on May 5th, 2015, 10 years ago, Brian. Incredible. And as the member of Fort McMurray-Lac Biche on March 16, 2022, and re-elected May 29th. Please, everybody, welcome with me, Minister Brian Jean.
Well, it's great to be here today. Thanks, Mike, and thanks, Catherine and Krista. And folks, we live in an amazing time. Isn't it odd what's going on in the world? I never thought I'd see something like this. The geopolitical situation is just unbelievable. And I think it's exciting to be part of it. I should mention a colleague of mine that is also excited to be here today, Dan Williams, the Minister of Mental Health and Addiction. Could you just stand up there, Dan? I think Dan's doing a great job for us in Alberta. We're actually, under the Premier's leadership, we're taking a different role in relation to mental health and addiction and some of the needs. And we're actually leading not just Canada and North America, but the world on that file. So I'm very proud of that, Dan. Thanks for doing that. I'm also excited to be here to talk about Alberta. Now, you may have heard, but we have this huge resource here called oil. It's pretty cool that you can make it into 6,000 different products. The world is demanding it right now. Korea wants it. Japan wants it. They say to me all the time, like, how can we get your heavy oil over here so we can make more products? Because we do burn light. We do get light and medium, but we need to mix it so we can get more uses out of that product. And Spain, Repsol, they want our oil. Kind of interesting. Even the East Coast wants our oil. They're just not letting it go across some of the land between us and them, which is another interesting thing that's going on right now, because a lot of people are actually now asking for that to happen that weren't before. I'm having conversations with Minister Dix from British Columbia, and I don't know if you've heard of the NDP in British Columbia and how they do things. I'm not going to give you a hard time if you're here today and a member of the NDP from British Columbia, but you ship more coal, thermal coal, out of your port than anywhere else in North America, and yet you won't let natural gas and oil travel freely without interference. You won't let oil at all, pretty much, unless it's from a pipe 30, 40 years ago. Now, those conversations are changing. Our conversation with Minister Moses in Manitoba is another conversation. I will tell you, 2 years ago, I talked to him about the opportunity to put natural gas into a pipe from the main line all the way up to the Hudson Bay and then out to Europe. You may have heard that our Prime Minister said there was no business case for natural gas. The Europeans say otherwise. Germany, the Netherlands, they want our oil too. The Netherlands imports, I think, about 800,000 barrels a day, and they would like more oil from us because they don't get any. What a conundrum. Everybody wants the product we have, but nobody's prepared to invest their time and energy in making sure that product gets to the customers. Now, I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic. I worked with Mark Carney for a couple of years back in Ottawa. He was the deputy governor of the Bank of Canada for a while, and then the governor. And he was a very pragmatic individual, and I'm hoping he sees the balance sheet. One thing we all know about Mark Carney, he looks at balance sheets, he looks at financial statements. So I'm hoping he looks at it and goes, "Oh my goodness gracious, what did I do?" Because man, after Justin Trudeau went through that checkbook, we don't have a lot of checks left. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think Minister Moses, he doesn't necessarily want oil, but he wants natural gas that makes hydrogen that is carried with ammonia and then travels 6 months a year from the Hudson Bay over to Europe. By the way, Europe needs natural gas in great abundance in the summertime. They store up their fleet. If that's Justin Trudeau, tell him I'll call him back, and I'm sorry for giving him a hard time. But in the summertime, so we can help them create massive storage opportunities and shipping opportunities in the summertime when we have no ice. It's a novel approach, but in the rest of the world, they're not doing that. They're using icebreakers. They believe in breaking the ice instead of just waiting for it to melt. We'll see how Canada does. But for the most part, we've got it so good, often we just wait for things to happen. So let's not do that this time. We've got a unique opportunity right now, right here, to talk about pipelines going in the ground that carry oil, natural gas, and all those other things that we can do. And we need to tell people about it. It's a tremendous opportunity. We are having conversations about corridors. We are having conversations about ammonia and hydrogen. I'm a business person. I've owned and operated a couple of dozen businesses, believe it or not. Small businesses, manufacturing, hotels, construction, retail. Biche. I have 3 retail businesses now. If anybody's in retail, I feel so sorry for you today. It's a nasty business out there. And our government is here to help. But we can't help you if you don't help yourself. And I say to people, often when I'm making this speech, because I make it a lot, and I do have some pretty wicked stats here, but you notice I'm not looking very much. But this opportunity that we have, and I've watched it because I was in Fort McMurray in 1967. I am that old. Anybody in the room older than 1967? Probably not, but one person, nobody would believe it. But I've been there since 1967, and I've seen the booms and I've seen the busts, and I think Fort McMurray as a whole has been an indicator of not just Alberta, not just Fort McMurray and Northern Alberta, but the whole province and the whole country. When we're busy, everybody's busy, right? And what do we do when everybody's busy? Well, I am so excited to tell you today that what we do is we fly people in and out of other places all over the country, all over the continent, all over the world. And I know you do it. Don't worry. I'm in business in Fort McMurray. Sometimes I've had to do it. I understand the realities of it. But this time, folks, we're going to have a boom and we're not going to screw it up, right? I like the bumper sticker. Come on, I like it. So what are we going to do? Well, the Premier's been very serious about doubling production. I'm excited. I have to tell you, when I watch her in front of me leading that parade, I'm more than happy to get behind her because she's excited about doubling oil production. I mean, 10 years ago, the oil industry was talking about how we, reduce consumption in a manageable state. I couldn't believe people in the oil industry were talking that way. When the rest of the world is producing 96 million barrels a day and burning it, we're 4%, 5% of that. And we do it better than anybody else on the planet. And if you don't believe me, come up to Fort McMurray. We do. I'm proud of it. But, like in the Alberta way, we don't just have oil, we have natural gas. And recently, We went from, I think, 15th or 16th in the world for natural gas to 9th as far as a jurisdiction that has a quantity. And Alberta, the little old province of less than 5 million people, has the 9th largest reserve in the world of natural gas. You know, that thing that costs very, very little and that heats your home and creates products and brings wealth to all of us? Man, I didn't even tell you about titanium. Do you know if we take the oil sands right now and the tailings ponds up there and we start producing titanium, we could supply 15 to 20% of the titanium demand in the world just from the tailings ponds. Wow. Then anybody heard about helium? It's a gas that you use for medical devices and a whole bunch of wonderful things like that that you can't get other products to do. So for medical field, for even nuclear, helium. And Alberta, in southeastern Alberta, we have huge quantities of helium. And, you know, they ran out recently in the US, then they found another find, and Russia's pretty much it for large quantities of helium. But now Alberta has helium, but we have so many other riches, we're not even thinking about it. We're not even thinking about a polishing facility or encouraging and supporting those companies that are out there, the innovators, the creators, the folks like you that create wealth. Proud of you. So this time, when we do all of this stuff that we're going to do, because there's a boom a-coming, you know, after being in Fort McMurray from 1966, 67 onwards. By the way, did any of you know this, that I was the first oil sands engineer? It's true. That actually turned to profit. You know, while Suncor, GCUS, Great Canadian Oil Sands in 1965 was building that plant site, my parents, in their wisdom, took their canoe, and myself and 7 or 8 of my brothers and sisters, and they took me down and parked on the side of the river and got me a shovel and a bucket, and they had me dig out that tar sands. I don't mind the word. I kind of like it. Oil sands for some of you folks. And they had me put it in a bucket, take it home, get these little packages, take a spoon and put, you know, a little bit of oil sands in those packages and then staple a card that had $1.99 on the side of it, and we sold it in our store. So I was actually the first oil sands engineer that made a profit. I was the youngest of 11. And you already know from that comment what I did versus all the rest of my brothers and sisters. And I sort of look at that as the same as Alberta versus the rest of the country. We are the youngest. We are the infant. We are a little bit, you know, self-assured from time to time. We take a whole crate of broken eggs and we make an amazing omelet. You know, the oil sands is a big environmental disaster to some people, but to me, it's a blessing. God gave it to us, and I think it's amazing. We can now take that gift and we can turn it into asphalt, world-class asphalt, just from the creation and innovation of you folks, people like you. We can turn it into carbon fiber and make airplanes, hockey sticks, for those of you that are a hockey fan, maybe not after last night, but we can make that right now with the technology. I saw it in Calgary. There's only 2 patents. It's a very, very simple process to make carbon fiber, and we're waiting for the opportunity to commercialize it, but it's there today. So once combustion engines stop, we still have tremendous opportunities with our natural resources. That's sort of my point. Whether it's oil, gas, world-class quantities, 4th largest reserve in the world of oil, titanium, lithium. Man, I forgot about batteries. Alberta's got this brine down in all of these gas and oil fields all across Alberta that's full of lithium, and it's 80, 90 parts per million. Well, we can take it up. Well, I shouldn't say we. I'd like to take credit for it. But our captains of industry in Alberta have found a way to take that and put it up to 1,000 parts per million and then commercialize it as a paste for batteries. And we have world-class quantities of that. Now, I was told I only have 50 minutes or an hour. Is that it? No, sorry. Am I excited about what we have? I am. We have so much. And we have what's going to happen here, and what you've seen in the past is a lifting of some of the regulatory burdens that don't make sense. Well, we're going to continue doing that in my ministry and other ministries. We're going to try to lessen the load on the captains of industries so we can get things going. So we can help you get things going. So we can make things better. But in closing, I would just say this to you. As a person that seems booms and busts and booms and busts, what are we doing with our wealth? Are we just filling our bank accounts? Are we building a really nice house out in the middle of Vancouver Island? Are we buying a condo in Hawaii or Mexico and intend to live there? That's all cool. Those are good things for you to do with your family. But when you're doing this, please think about rural Alberta. Right now, we have houses that are worth a third of what they are in Calgary, a quarter of what they are in Toronto. And it's the heart of the oil and gas industry of North America. So I recently took a trip to Texas. I did say in conclusion, didn't I? I recently took a trip to Texas and I saw Houston. And wow, what a city. And it's not my first time there. I went to school in the United States and I've seen that world-class city evolve. And they've done it on less oil and less natural gas and less lithium, less titanium than we have here. You ever been to Dubai? I've been to Dubai. Whoa. I would start wearing one of those things just to have that kind of money. So while we're doing all of this, while we're building this incredible, beautiful, amazing province that's going to help our children and be the best bastion of liberty and freedom on the planet, let's employ the people here. Let's really make a concerted effort to employ your friends and neighbors that are raising their kids next to your kids. It makes a difference. And while my population right now, a third of the houses currently listed in Fort McMurray are under foreclosure. Yeah. While Calgary and Edmonton are doing great, Fort McMurray is dying. That's not right, folks. So think about it. It's not just Fort McMurray. It's Cold Lake. It's Lac La Biche. It's all these other communities. Build your family. Build your friends. Build our province with us. And we're going to try to move that way. I've received authority from the Premier to try to build more by way of communities. And I think with your help, we could do exactly that. Thank you so much for your time today, and thanks for what you do.
Well, thank you. That was rousing.
Thanks,
At 7:30 in the morning. I'm going to veer off script. Is that all right, Catherine? Yeah, do whatever you want. That's a dangerous. Couple of things. I appreciate, Minister, what you shared this morning. When you talk about lithium and titanium and all of these things, the question is, when I hear you talk, is what do we have to do to increase not only production of those products, minerals, whatever they are, but how do we export them? How do we get people to buy them from us? That seems to me to be the problem. We are resource rich, but there's these roadblocks or hindrances to people actually either buying or wanting our products. So how do we get around that?
Well, what we hope happens is this guy by the name of Donald Trump gets elected in the United States, and it shows everybody how vulnerable you are and how silly we've been over the last 2 or 3 decades. Northern Gateway should have happened. There is no question at all that would have changed things a lot for us. We need to take advantage of this opportunity and have those discussions like we've never had them before. And frankly, the other thing that I really like about my Premier is she's prepared to push the envelope legally. I was a litigator for 10 years, and I have seen, and as many of my colleagues, I will tell you, my legal colleagues have also acknowledged this. The Alberta government has not been aggressive enough. You guys are going to like, what, really? Seriously? We haven't been aggressive enough. We have to stand up for our rights. The Constitution is very clear about our role and their role. It's very clear. But did you know we have exclusive jurisdiction to our natural resources? You wouldn't know by how they treat us. Well, Carney says he's going to do things differently. I'm hoping he does and recognizes that. Part of that role is for us to take advantage of the opportunity, though. We can't let it slip by. Like I said, we've done it a couple times, the 70s and then again, early 2000s, we've had opportunities to build our community. Remember I said, what's this really about? Is it about putting money in your bank account? Sure it is. But it's about building your community along with that. We should have 5 or 6 world-class cities like Calgary. No disrespect to Edmonton, I live here too. But Calgary is an amazing, you go anywhere in the world and And people say, Calgary, yeah, that's a world-class city. Why do we have one world-class city? And you can argue Edmonton, it's a beautiful city, but the government lives here, so I can't say too much good about that. I'm with the government. I'm here to help. That was funny, Cam, wasn't it, a little bit?
Well, Minister, let's go on to the next question. No, just kidding.
I love this guy. But, it's what we're building together and how we create a regulatory environment that is appreciated by industry. And if you find, I mentioned this just 2 days ago with the energy sector with some folks there. And I said, listen, if you don't come to me and tell me how to fix this problem, and they have lots of problems, how do you expect me to fix it? And who do you blame for not fixing it? Like I put my phone number, my cell number that I've had 30 years, I put it on my business card. Why? Because then nobody has an excuse for not reaching out to me. And if they don't reach out to me and they have a problem and say, I've had this problem for years, you should have told me, because we are in this together. You can't pay taxes unless we have a regulatory system that encourages you to grow. And that's what we want to do.
One more question, and you touched on it briefly just off script, and then we'll go back to script. And I think it's a question that we've all thought about in the last 48 hours. We've been presented with it. Not so much a question, but just wondering what you feel and sort of where you see the whole Alberta separatist movement going. And I'm asking that because I think it's on everyone's mind. Whether we're for it or against it isn't what I'm saying today, but what are your thoughts? We know the Premier came out with her stand in the last day or two, which I thought was excellent in how she put it. And just wondering, you personally and as a representative of the government, what are your thoughts on that? Because it is the continuing conversation. So
I think the business community needs certainty and predictability. It doesn't need turmoil. And for me, the separatist issue and the movement are about being dissatisfied. And there's no question I'm dissatisfied with Confederation. I mean, I watch how much money goes to Ottawa and doesn't come back. I see that you can collect Pogie, for instance, in Newfoundland well before you can do it in Fort McMurray. If you have the same job, you can collect it earlier and you get more money just because you're in Newfoundland or Nova Scotia. I don't think that makes much sense to me. If you're unemployed no matter where you are. But the federal government has been equalizing us to death. Why? Because we make a lot of money here. Why? Because we generate a lot of wealth here. But I'm going to tell you something, folks. If you think our bridges are in good shape, you should go drive over, some of those bridges in rural Alberta. They are not in good shape. They were built in the 60s and they're falling down. Why? Because successive governments have ignored them. And what have we done? We've invested heavily in Calgary and Edmonton, which is where the growth is. But when these bridges aren't usable anymore, like the Smith one, it changes the economics on all the stuff that's on the other side of that bridge. If you don't fix it, we're not going to have rural Alberta bringing in the wealth for urban Alberta, and that's the way it works. So what we need to do is truly invest in infrastructure, invest in needs based on priorities of the people and the economies and the industries that need them, whether it's pulp and paper or whether it's oil and gas or whether it's lithium or whether it's titanium. And, one of the things that I'm doing, if there's anybody here from CNRL, I know I'm a big fan of CNRL, but, the assets that are with Alberta right now are land and the minerals. And we need investment right now by these companies. So what I've done recently is I've sent a letter to some of these companies encouraging them to take the things they have and currently rent from us, aka land, and use it or lose it. Because there's other people right now that want to invest in that land, and you can't be a land baron. Not in Alberta. Not assets that belong to the people. So I'm asking them how I can find carrots to encourage them to use the land they currently have for oil and gas and invest in that land. How they can take the titanium and the vanadium. I never talked about vanadium, did I? Did I talk about sulfur? The largest man-made thing in the world is a pile of sulfur in northern Alberta. Largest quantity of sulfur, and we can't get it out because we're a little bit landlocked. Can you believe the oil sands doesn't have a railroad to it? I just sometimes think about private sector is the way to go, but sometimes we just do not make good decisions on large infrastructure projects. And that's maybe that's the government's fault. I think we should talk to industry about that. But all of these things are opportunities to move forward. And that's really what I want to tell you all is be optimistic. We have a premier that's really moving forward, and she's not a separatist that I can see. And I think she's just like a lot of us, like 30, 40% of us, very dissatisfied with our relationship with the federal government.
that doesn't make you a separatist. That just means you don't feel you're getting a good deal. So we need to renegotiate that deal.
Good answer, I think.
Dan, did I tap well on that one?
So let's go back to script then. With Mr. Carney's government likely to focus its first 100 days on reinforcing Canadian sovereignty, he said he would do that, shifting carbon pricing policy, accelerating trade, diversification in response to UF tariffs. Minister, what opportunities and challenges do you foresee for Alberta's energy and mining sectors, specifically on how we can position Alberta to lead in both traditional energy exports and critical mineral development? And what navigating potential shifts in federal climate policy and export of export marketing strategies? You touched a bit on it, but maybe you can just go there a little bit more.
Maybe next time I'm up here, you could bring me the 14-page question you just gave me. I think I heard opportunities and threats in there somewhere.
Want to read it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen, with every change comes opportunity and threats. And with Mark Carney, I think there's more opportunities than threats because of the nature of his background. And, you know, I will say that the UK former Prime Minister gave Mark Carney a hard ride. Didn't like what he did to her country. In fact, more or less blames him for losing her election. And I'm not going to get into that. That's politics. But I think now he has to prove himself. Like, you may not know this, but since 2004, Mark Carney's been in waiting. And everybody in the Liberal Party knows he's been in waiting, including him. So he has to perform. It's sort of like Paul Martin. That didn't go well. But I think Mark Carney has to do certain things. And one of the things he's clearly signals is he wants to do more business with Europe. You know what Europe needs? Energy. So if he wants to fulfill that commitment and not look silly, it's got to be practical. With every, as I mentioned, threats, I worked with Pierre Poilievre for 10 years. He would be an amazing prime minister. I'm going to tell you that. He would be very, very good. But he was going to cancel he was going to defund pathways if it wasn't done yet. And, I'm the energy minister of Alberta. I'm not the energy minister of Ottawa. So for me, a $26 billion project that builds a pipeline, a 24-inch pipeline from the oil sands down to Cold Lake, I don't know, as a person that's got analysis of, what is it, about 178 billion barrels of oil left? It's like another 130-year supply at current amounts, current technology. I think we could do things differently and make things better. Did I talk to you about recently? The Premier asked for us to do a study on our inventories. Did I tell you that we just got do you remember the Newfoundland field when they talked about the offshore Newfoundland and how big it was and how excited they were about it? And the whole country talked about Newfoundland and offshore oil and wow, this big, remember that? Well, we just found the same amount in a place called the Clearwater in Northern Alberta. And we added that to our reservoir, our inventories. Did anybody hear anything about that? No, but we found the same size as Newfoundland in Alberta. So, and that's just current technology. Stan has to go. He's saving the world, by the way, folks. I really have to tell you this. That guy is doing a great job. He's really helping the most vulnerable people in our province, and he's doing a great job of it. So one more hand for him, please, if you don't mind. He's another Northern Albertan. I have to give him a plug for Grand Prairie, so in that area.
You had mentioned earlier about travel corridors and trade corridors and those kinds of things. And there's a lot of talk about Indigenous-led trade corridors, which I think is excellent, like the proposed routes to, say, Churchill or Hudson Bay. How do you see both the Alberta government's part and the federal government's part in moving these trade corridors ahead so that we can develop them? You talk about sulfur and we're landlocked. How do we get sulfur to the ports, whether it's Port Alberni, wherever it might be? So how do we work with Indigenous peoples to maybe create more of those trade corridors, travel corridors?
I think Jason Kenney and the Alberta government did a great job on the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Court. In politics, you have to watch both sides of the equation. You have to watch taxpayers' dollars, but you also have to watch, what is the purpose of what we're doing here? And we're now lending $3 billion. We're using our borrowing power in the Alberta government to lend money to, projects that have a recurring return on investment and that are high security, good quality investments. Like transportation lines or oil pipelines and things like that. I think that's our answer. I think that's a secret sauce to get our pipeline to the West Coast. And, you know, I'm from Fort McMurray. I have 30 nephews and nieces that are Treaty Indians, 15 of which were born on reserves. So my Christmas dinners are a little different than yours because we don't necessarily just have turkey. We have moose. But it's seeing what's happened in Fort McMurray and that area with oil sands. I have to congratulate, you know, Suncor and CNRL and Syncrude, which was the first company that really did a good job of it. You know, they have a hiring policy, and they hire right now, I think 12% of their workforce is Indigenous, and something like 6% of their purchases go to Indigenous companies. Now, is it perfect? No, but I've seen those people, you know, pull themselves out of where they were to a place that is much better, my family included. You know, I have 3 or 4 members of my family that have lived on the streets here in Edmonton, like many of us have. And some of you may not have, but I've seen it. And that's why I appreciate what Dan Williams is doing. That's why I know it's so important to get this right so we can take our royalties, which is an amazing thing. You know, we got $18 billion from royalties last year on the oil and gas sector. $18 billion. That pays for all of our schools, all of our healthcare, pretty much. That's amazing. You know, those are the things that we as a province should work on, is to make it easier for captains of industry to go in there, to work with the regulatory system, to work with Indigenous companies and Indigenous-led opportunities, which, by the way, are not majority stakeholders. They're usually a 5% interest, which means they get a steady check, but you know, or maybe they're on the board. But these are pipelines that we can't get in the ground now, and we can't get to the West Coast. And frankly, if they discover something else that replaces oil, which is possible for combustion engines, we're going to have all this oil and nothing to do with it. So let's get it out as quickly as we possibly can, as reasonably as we possibly can, making sure that the most important part of all of it, which is human capital, the people that decide to live here in Alberta, we make them rich and wealthy and the quality of life beyond their wildest dreams, whoever they are. That's sort of my goal.
You talk about all of the amazing minerals and resources that we have here in Alberta and how we're not fully utilizing or accessing or shipping them out or trading them out or those kinds of things. What about the opportunities of taking some of those things, even some of them you've talked about this morning, and rather than saying we have to export everything, developing business, developing industry right here in Alberta that would utilize some of those minerals? I think of things like data centers. We talk a lot about data centers. I'm out in Atchison.
That's a separate question, you know, like the data center one is a separate question. Don't you find his questions get to be pretty heavy there by the 3rd or 4th paragraph? I love data centers.
Minister?
Right?
I just read what I'm giving. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. But it is on my mind because actually I'm dealing with data centers right now. But I think about things like when you talk about natural gas and some of the other resources that we're going to ship out to make batteries and all of those kinds of things. Why aren't we encouraging industry right here in Alberta to actually be the manufacturer? Is that more simply put?
I agree.
Then always shipping it out. Why can't we do it right here and get the finished product here and ship out the finished product?
Well, first of all, we don't have the population base to have the disbursement among finishing products that we could have manufacturing wise, but we're right next to the US border. And if we use our competitive advantages properly, I will tell you this, you've all heard of the company Sherritt. They're an Edmonton based company. They actually get their nickel from Cuba. They get it out of a mine in Cuba. They ship it on a boat up to the east coast of Canada. And then they ship it on a rail line all the way to Edmonton, and then they refine it. They finish it there. They do that because it's very difficult to process and smelter and do that with different products. What I believe our future is here in Alberta is not so much the mines, and I'm working on a policy right now, but on the processing of the product. So the Northwest Territories is right above us. That's the biggest find, and in 30 or 40 years, it's going to be amazing as far as what it brings out for critical minerals. And we should have the finishing facilities around Edmonton because we have the natural gas, we have the industrial space, we have the geography in order to control any issues. I really believe that's the future for us, and I'm trying to put together a program right now that would encourage people to put processing facilities in and around the industrial heartland or other places around Alberta. And remember I mentioned that rural Alberta is not doing great? Well, I think we have to look at the opportunity for industrial economic zones in rural Alberta to make sure that we encourage those companies to come to those places and to set up their processing plants in places where the communities want them. And I don't know if you've been watching the news, but a lot of communities in the United States and in Europe don't want these types of industries there. I think that's a mistake. And that's why Europe is in the economic and frankly geopolitical situation it's in, because they are the experts at NIMBYism. We can't let that control us, folks. We have to recognize the realities of what's going on in the world, how we can be an energy superpower, how we can be part of the cure of energy poverty. 8.5 million people die a year from energy poverty just because we can't get our energy to them. Wow. I think that's unbelievable that the world is there. And we're meanwhile fighting over whether coal or natural gas or oil. We should be fighting about how do we get that product to them faster. That's what we should be worried about. Then we wouldn't have people like Putin, have such great effect on people. And you all know that here with the Ukrainian population in Alberta and Canada is huge. And you all know somebody that's been affected by it. And it's wrong. It shouldn't happen, but it's happening because of energy.
And that's good. We could go a million trails on that one. That's fascinating. Just to go back, though, you talked about economic development zones or economic zones within our. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. It's something. I'm glad Dan left because nobody's allowed to tell the premier because I've been working on it for a while. But you may have. That was supposed to be a joke. You could go. Being in Fort McMurray, I've seen what's happening in McMurray. I've seen what's happening when the oil sands were booming. I've seen the industrial heartland. What a success story that is. I've also seen this little country that has developed itself out of Stone Age in about 50 years called China. And they did it through economic zones along the coast. And what they did is they, in essence, designated geographic areas as special zones that would allow them to add value and to be capitalist. And, that's how they went from communism to capitalism, in essence, through economic zones. And I'm not saying we're communists in rural Alberta, but has anybody tried to develop something through planning and development in Fort McMurray recently? That was a joke too, but not really. I'm a developer by trade, and I'll tell you right now in rural Alberta, it is almost impossible to get things built. I do not get it. Why does it take 5 years to get a kids camp built on privately held land that is nobody's business except for the person who owns it? I don't know. I've asked the mayor that for the last 3 years. I'm going to keep asking him. It's an election year. You know what elections mean to politicians? That's a hint, by the way, if you're ever looking for me to do something.
Yeah, he got his number. If you want his number, just call him.
And seriously, I do have my business cards. I'll leave some on the table, and my phone number is on there. If you want to reach out to me, either by email or by phone with some ideas or things that could help us in Alberta, I'm excited about it. I love talking to people. I drive about 25 hours a week, and I have one of those new Fords, by the way. If you haven't tried one, it's got Bluetooth hands-free steering. So if you see my truck coming down the road, you might want to get off the road.
Yeah, okay.
They're great vehicles.
I don't even know where to go with that one.
Cam, you like doing this.
So I'm going to keep going on this a little bit because when you talk about can't get anything developed in rural Alberta, well, truthfully, you can't get anything developed in urban Alberta either. And believe me, we know that for a fact. Any thoughts on free trade zones and FTZs? And I'm throwing out there. I know it's not necessarily an energy area, however, it could be.
I have taken an aggressive policy in the past. I think regulatory burden is one of the things that hinders development. And if you want to see development, put in free trade opportunities where people can add value and create wealth. And I remember a proposal back in 2006 to have the Edmonton Airport as an economic free zone. And I don't know if anybody's here from the airport, but I thought that was a great idea and I supported it. But every other airport across Canada didn't like it. So,
is that a federal issue or a provincial issue?
It's a federal issue more than
right.
Provincial, but it's really an issue of fairness and tax fairness, and I believe in fairness.
But I'm glad to hear you say that because we're all for FTZs. You've done a great job in advancing Alberta's interests of energy and industry and investment. You've acknowledged that you're our greatest resource remains Albertans, the people in this room. As the leader of an incredible resource, what advice do you have for us to navigate some of the headwinds in this very and extremely challenging environment in which we live? And amidst the uncertainty, which I think that is the key word right there. There's just an enormous amount of uncertainty in business. How do we navigate that, and where do you see us going with all of that?
Well, first of all, I like to say to people politically that I'm really glad Donald Trump got elected because he makes me look good. You can laugh, but think about it, right? You can only pick your best of the competition. And when Donald Trump's out there and he's saying all these things and acting crazy, well, stability and predictability look very attractive. So I say to you, while he's doing that, I'm talking to all his potential captains of industry that want to set up titanium, lithium, data centers. I'm on the data center working group of ministers. Like, I'm going hard on that one, and I'm trying to find any solution I can, lateral pipes or part of the NGTL, whatever it is. I'm trying to find solutions to it so we can get data centers here. So I guess what my advice would be after 20 years in politics is when everybody else around you is acting really crazy, look sane. Because people will want to invest with you, people will want to talk to you, people will ignore the other crazy guy because they know it's crazy. Dow Chemical recently made an investment in Alberta, and people said, "Oh, they stopped." No, they didn't. They just slowed down. I like it. I like good business that's practical and flexible based on the economic needs. They slowed down. Why? Because the economy is shrinking. They slowed down by a year. That's not a big deal. I mean, they could have done that without the announcement. Please do it next time. Anyways, but they're building here. Why? Because they have 365 days of constant production of a product. You may have heard about hurricanes and tornadoes and stuff down in the US. They can't work all the time. In Alberta, they can. Also, cold is better for some equipment. Data centers. Why do you think people are looking at the Arctic or Fort McMurray right now? We have the same weather, so it's sort of a thing. But there is a company right now, and they told me this week, they're going to build the biggest data center in North America in Fort McMurray. Wow. That was a public announcement, by the way. I won't tell you who it was because he'll get really mad at me. But that's pretty amazing. Now, why would they do that? Well, because we have great pipelines for natural gas. We have incredible pipelines for energy, for electricity. We have sequestration opportunities. We have water. We have a very highly skilled workforce. I haven't even talked about that today, but probably the most highly skilled workforce in North America in one place, concentration. Not just Fort McMurray, but I'm talking Edmonton, Fort McMurray, that corridor. It's a corridor of experts. So we can build them, we can service them, we can do whatever's necessary, and we can do so a lot less expensive than other jurisdictions. And by the way, you can save 15 to 20% on OPEX just because it's colder. I'm kind of excited about that. Move up to Fort McMurray and freeze with us. It's not that bad, to be honest. It was such a beautiful weekend. Did you guys have a great weekend? I sure did. I went home. I have a 6-year-old daughter, and I spent time at home just in the garden, and it was a great weekend.
Great weekend. Great place to live. I believe some of these questions were submitted to us. Is that correct? So I'm gonna read this as submitted. It says, "Now I don't buy into the whole CO2 climate change narrative. CO2 does not warm the earth. It's actually the sun. However, for those people that believe this is a paint heavy oil with a negative and paint, for those who paint."
I understand the question.
Do you want me to stop now?
No, you can stop now. Listen,
it's 7:30.
Yeah, it's
I'll
okay.
say 30.
I knew we should have got up earlier
exactly.
today. Okay, let's put that aside. I have an MBA in finance. I'm just going to put it out there, and in marketing. Okay, and I say that because I'm a big believer in business and marketing. I think marketing, sales. I was a lawyer for a while, and don't hold that against me. By the way, I would have kept being a lawyer, but I had to work with other lawyers, so I couldn't stand it. I could do stand-up, and these folks wouldn't laugh still.
It's a tough crowd, man. It's 8:30 in the morning. It's tough.
But listen, I don't care whether CO2 warms the earth from my perspective. We have the best geology on the planet for CO2 sequestration. Best. Alberta? Yeah. The best in the world. Well, Japan builds a ship for $1 billion or $3 and then sends it offshore to a sequestration opportunity in the middle of the ocean. and builds all the facility for that. Wow, Japan must be taking this seriously, CO2. So you don't have to take it seriously, but the international money markets take it seriously. Japan takes it seriously. Korea takes it seriously. Europe takes it seriously. And you don't have to take it seriously. I didn't like the Cabbage Patch dolls either, but I sold them. Right? But every single competitive advantage Alberta has, every single one over everybody else on the planet, except for maybe parts of Louisiana and maybe a couple other states down there that don't have the legal framework that we do. Like, by the way, Alberta owns the geology. In the United States, you got to make a bazillion contracts and then figure out what's going to happen when somebody violates them, because everybody owns it there. You know, in essence, that's a legal way of saying it's not the same legal framework. So whether you believe in GHG sequestration or not, the rest of the world does. And if the money markets are going in that direction, I think we have to too. Now, this election was run and won by a guy from Eastern Canada that believes in CO2 sequestration, that believes in pathways. So I look at it this way. I say to myself, so the federal government's proposing with all these companies to build a pipeline that's going to cost $26 billion, give or take, and that's going to be built from the oil sands all the way down to Cold Lake. 24 inches of pipe, stainless steel pipe that can carry CO2 or oil or natural gas, and it can go both ways. And the federal government's going to pay for 80% of it, and the Alberta government's going to pay for 12%? I don't know. It sounds like a pretty good reinvestment by Canada in Alberta. They're paying for it. And they're going to employ how many Albertans? 12,000 Albertans for 14 years? Well, I'm not looking at it on the science because I'm not a scientist. I'm looking at it on the economic possibilities and what the world wants. And what the world wants right now is an opportunity to buy sequestered carbon from oil. And we have a situation where we have what people call the most polluting oil on the planet in Fort McMurray. We know it's not. We know we do a better job than anybody else. But if we could sequester 70 to 80% of the GHG emissions from this oil, man, if I was in Korea and Japan, I'd take pretty serious those steps by that country. And oh, by the way, I forgot. You can take that CO2, you can put it in the earth, it liquefies, and then when you want it, you can bring it back out again, to harden cement, to make other products. It's just not hot air, guys. That's what I give. It's actually an asset, a product that we can use in the future. Because we are innovators, we are creators. There is a reason why the oil sands is such an opportunity. It's not just an opportunity for combustion engines. It's an opportunity for everything, for so many different opportunities in the future for creation of wealth. And that's why I say we know it's coming. It's going to be there. It's coming. Right now it's coming. There's a boom coming. I can feel it. And I know the rest of the world's shrinking, contracting, but Mark Carney has to do something or else he's going to shrink too, and he can't do it. So from a political perspective, from an asset perspective, from a people perspective, let's get this right. We know we're going to build it. Let's hire Albertans. Let's require them to come here and live. Let's make sure that we build the communities around us with incredible facilities that these employees will want to stay here and raise their family and live, because it is the best place in the world to live, to work, and to raise a family. And it's honestly up to us. In 1,000 years from now, they're going to look back at Alberta and say, they had the wealth that they had, and what did they do with it? Well, I'm hoping that I'm a small cog in that. Hope you are too.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for answering all of our questions and some we didn't ask.
I ignored a couple.
Yes, you did. I noticed that. I wasn't going to bring that up, but yeah, if you want to talk to the minister after, you could probably do that. But thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate what you and your government is doing. I really do. Anyways, we live in very unique times, and I feel that you are representing us well. And as some of the business community within the city of Edmonton and around, we appreciate what you're doing for us, for our province, and representing us globally.
Thanks, Cam. I really appreciate it. And thanks to all of you. I really, and the government and the Premier really appreciates what you do too. We know it's not easy during times of turmoil to keep a straight head and think about your business opportunities and your families and not to cash in and to keep it steady. But, well, the world is crazy. If we're stable, the world will come to us and invest here.
Thank you.
Please think about that. Thanks again for your time.
Much.
Want to hang out for 2 seconds? Yeah, I'm going to do another thank you. Thank you for your energy and enthusiasm at 7 in the morning to get us riled up and giving us the education on what we can go to the market with as well, as far as spreading the word. And I will say, with your energy and enthusiasm, I'm glad you're on the energy market and international market, because I'll buy if I could. So thank you very much for taking the time.
On the table, please.
For coming, a small gift for you, and I really appreciate you coming to spend the time. And Cam, as always, I appreciate you with everything that you do and grilling them in their questions. And here's a small gift for you as well. Thank you.
Great job, you guys. Thank you. I love how bullish you are, Mr. Minister Jean. I feel the same way. Now we're going to do our 50-50 draw. It is worth $200, so you'll get 100 if you get your number ready. Okay, 140280. Awesome. Very good. Well done. Sure, come on. And now a business card draw for a 6-month AG membership. Oh, already a member. But you can gift it. Jelena Bajic. You can gift it to whomever you wish. Yes. Thank you so much. Our upcoming events are May 22nd in Calgary. We have a roundtable with Minister Nally. Minister will have a 2-minute opening statement, and then it's going to be a completely different format where we will hear from members and members' guests who submitted their red tape reduction topic or topics. Sound like there was a few from today. We'll have the mic to share their thoughts in that event, and we're also going to do that here in Edmonton on June 12th. So Calgary is 2 to 4 p.m. and Edmonton is 9 to 11 a.m. No longer the 7 a.m. I'll try to stay away from that, you guys. May 23rd in Calgary, we have Minister Sawney and Dr. Jack Mintz. That one is sold out on their initiatives in education. We have a reverse trade mission that, with Cam's help, we are bringing Texas to us. So it's going to be in and around the September 20th Business Awards Gala for Atchison Business Association. So it'll either be the week before or week after. So we'll certainly make sure that Edmonton, Grand Prairie, and Calgary are represented with that reverse trade mission. Kelly Charlebois, our government relations lead, is also helping us put together an annual event with directors and managers of every ministry. We're starting with energy, and that will be booked in September or October this year. More details will come on both. That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and look forward to the networking. Thank you.